Today's guest is Katie. She is the founder of The Social Wellness. Through her VA and social media business, Katie helps entrepreneurs simplify their operations, reclaim their time, and focus on what really matters, serving their clients and growing their business. She started her company as a way to take back control of her own life and income, proving that with the right systems and support, business owners don't have to do it all alone. Hi, Katie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Likewise, I'm excited to learn more about your business and the journey of you becoming an entrepreneur. So let's dive in. Tell us a little bit about what sparked you to start your business? What was the inspiration behind it? What really drove you to be like, this is what I want to be doing with my time?
I definitely think when I was in corporate working in my internship, I started out doing a lot of, social media, content creation, and that really sparked me to start doing that on my own. People were already asking me, can you create this flyer? Can you create the social media post? And I was doing that for little to nothing just because I knew I had that skill set. And then along with being at work, I was already doing those things. I just felt like I needed to get to a space where I could, do it on my own, make my own sort of way of doing it. And, not allowing a boss to tell me how to do things and everything just being through my own path and journey. So I think I quit my job from there and I really just started my business from scratch as in social media freelancing. And that's what really inspired me to just get off the ground.
I love that. That's so awesome. Because one thing that you're touching on is people were basically telling you what your skills were. And a lot of the time, that's how businesses start for a lot of entrepreneurs, where it's we don't realize our own skill set until someone else is like, this is actually what you're really good at. And it sounds like that's what's happened for you, that people were like, can you do the social media? Can you do this graphic design for me? And then that pushed you to do your own.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely felt like it was the universe's way of saying you can do this by yourself. These are little jobs that you can start and build that skill set, but now it's time to take the leap. So,
okay. And
yeah.
what was that like? Because a lot of the times, and I say this for anyone listen, we get these nudges of I feel like I'm being told something. And sometimes if fear creeps in and we're like, I'm just not going to listen. I'm going to just continue doing this other thing. What was it like to actually listen to that nudge of the universe telling you this is what you're meant to be doing?
It was scary as hell. I didn't know if it was the right decision, but I was really following my gut. That was something that I always grew up on, hearing from my family, my friends. It was really, when you know something is right, you will feel it in your body, you'll feel it in your gut. And I could definitely feel like my time was coming to an end at my current position. And I was meant to start a new path. So I definitely felt it, but I also I was scared. I definitely was scared to, change things. It's hard, change is scary for anyone. But I think what really allowed me to know that it was the right decision is the fact that while I was fearful, it wasn't coming from a place of lack. It was coming from a place of, this is new and scary and you're going to be amazing at it. When somebody for example, first day of school, right? That's new and scary, but it's not something you're going to avoid. It's going to be something that's going to be exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time.
Yeah. I think you and I have talked about this before, where it's one thing to make a decision from the scared, the worst is going to happen, versus a decision of scared but excited to see what could come from it, right? One is better than the other. It just with that description alone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. This came from a place of listening to my gut and listening to my intuition, just knowing that from there, it's all going to be new and it's all going to be about learning and just being okay with the unknown. So
I love that. And as I said at the beginning, you offer both virtual assistant and social media services. So can you tell me a little bit about maybe one of the common problems that clients face and they come to you for that you help solve for them?
I think a big problem that a lot of entrepreneurs have is they feel like they can do everything. They're really overwhelmed with their systems. They're overwhelmed with all these different back end tasks. And included in that is obviously content creation and social media. And that's why I've really combined the social media part of my business and moved towards virtual assistants because they really go hand in hand. So I find with a lot of entrepreneurs, again, they're like, I just don't have the time to do everything, but they feel like they need to burn themselves out and do everything and have 12-hour days. I know that especially because I used to do that to myself. And working with you, Anna, you knew that I was constantly having those long days, but not really knowing how to outsource or delegate things to have that structured schedule and things I could deal with versus something that could be delegated. So really just providing that back end support, the administration piece, the social media piece, but then also helping create systems and processes to make things more efficient so that down the line, you know what you're doing for those processes and it doesn't take you 2 hours to create a social media post versus, you know, you have somebody in your corner who has a process on how to get that to you to approve things, as well as everything scheduled and you don't have to do anything. So it's really just about automating and streamlining processes.
Oh, I love that. Automating and streamlining processes. I like that you mentioned it's like back-end support. A lot of business owners don't realize how valuable that is to have, because it does free up a lot of your time. Can you talk to us a little bit about like the systems? I don't know if maybe there's like an example you can share with us or like sort of like a case study maybe of like what that looks like if someone were to come to you for your VA services and you're like, either you need to previously have these systems or this is sort of like step one, the system we need to build for you.
I can give you different examples. One big example would be obviously that process of marketing. So if you are marketing a product or a course you have, or you're just trying to launch something, what is your step-by-step process? Do you have a strategy in mind on things that you know you're going to talk about? But then, okay, what is that timeline of the amount of things that we're going to post? And what is the approval process for that? So that's really just like a full standard operating procedure, or I call SOP, of things that you're going to need in your business in order to market things as a business owner. Another example would be events. I come from an events background, and a lot of the time there's so many different elements, including that marketing piece, but just setting up your event. So where is everything going to be? Is it going to be on a platform? Are you going to be posting on social media? Are you going to let people know through, Eventbrite? Like there's so many different elements to it. So there's the pre-process of like creating your events, then there's launching everything. And then after that, there's the post-event work that you have to do, the surveys, the connecting with people, the emails, right? So I would even advise for anyone who is in events, and part of my niche is wellness in entrepreneurs that are females. A lot of them are doing events, right? So I would really outline to those individuals having that process of what is the pre-process for your events, what is the current process when you launch, and then the post kind of process of those events once they're finished.
Yeah, I mean, the overwhelm that you mentioned earlier, how like you really help people reduce that just in that explanation about events alone. If that is just one part of your business, like if you're just doing one event a year, like it is a lot that goes involved in that. Like you need the support because like you said, it's not just the day of the event. It's like the pre, the during, the post, like it's a lot involved in it. So to anyone listening, it's okay. Don't be overwhelmed. There are people that can help you. And there's also ways of simplifying stuff so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming, right?
Yeah, I definitely think for entrepreneurs, it really is that there are so many moving elements to it. It's really just breaking down those elements into step-by-step processes, having that down on paper. That's my biggest thing that I always say to people is they keep things in their head, right? I started that way as well when I onboarded somebody on my team, but I knew right away I need to write these things down that I've already been doing for my clients on their processes so that that next person can understand what those processes are as well. So it's really just getting that information outside of your head, writing it down on paper. I've always said that to people, like when you write something down physically from your head, it's actually out there. you know what you're doing, the information is there, and from there you can clean up and clarify to people on what those steps are as well.
For sure. I think what you're touching on, it's like if it's all in your head, then you're really navigating as a solopreneur. And until you actually put that somewhere, that's if you were not around and someone can take over, that's when you're really stepping into like your CEO and putting your time behind your zone of genius.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about, well, did they do this? And you can't assume that they're in your brain, right? They're not a mind reader. So you have to be able to outline things step by step. And you may think when writing these things down, well, they should know this. No, like you need to be able to write all those moving elements so that when they go and do it and they have that piece of paper to look at, whether it's that piece of paper and videos and just references to things, they understand it to a full element. It's like putting your brain on paper. That's what I say.
Yeah, because like outsourcing, sometimes depending what you're outsourcing for, it's like, are you looking for someone to be exactly like you, or are you looking for someone that has a skill set that you don't have, right?
Yeah, and I think you've touched on this with me as well. Are you looking for that extension to your business, right? There are people who can do certain tasks and have certain skill sets, but if you're really wanting somebody to be part of your team, just like I have with my team member, you have to show them those elements of how you do things and even gain knowledge on how to make things more efficient yourself. As someone who does systems and processes, like I look at my own system and processes and ask my team member, are there ways that you're finding make these more efficient as well? It's not just about what I know, it's about collaboration too for those efficiencies.
I love that. Collaboration is so important. And you're kind of touching on this a little bit, but for those that are listening who maybe they're not ready to hire you, but they're really like diving into this conversation of like delegating, automating, having systems in place, getting themselves ready to step into like the CEO and, downgrade the hats that they're wearing. What's one tip or strategy they could put into practice right away?
I think, again, writing those things down, creating your first standard operating procedure, start your company handbook book, whether that's, just a step-by-step thing that you do for your social media. Like, how are you marketing yourself right now? What are some of your brand guidelines? Just start writing those things out. You don't even have to outsource to anyone yet, but imagine you're already stepping into that zone that you're about to hire someone. So go in, take the time and just write out those processes, even if it means, it's going to take me an hour to write down what this process is. It's going to save you so much time down the line when you are ready to outsource someone. I think what I will also say is if you are at a stage where you are just so overwhelmed and you do need to hire someone now, again, I would say, what is something that you can get off your plate right now, and just take that small element and give it to that person. From there, make sure you're communicating with them on, is this process working? What am I not doing right now to help with efficiencies? Because again, they're not in your head, right? So it's going to be a lot of A/B testing. I like to say A/B testing in the marketing world, but testing on your part on what's working and what isn't. So I think if I were to go back and start everything from scratch, I would have started with like a full-on handbook of what I am as an individual in a business, but also the steps and processes that I'm doing right now within my business that I know down the line I'll be handing off to somebody else.
I think you're touching on something really important. I mean, you dove into like if you're in the situation right now where you're overwhelmed and ready to delegate, you've covered that. But the other thing that you slightly touched on is like pre-planning. Like right now, if you have a space and time in your calendar to be able to put together your SOP, like your systems in place, like take advantage of it, because when you don't have the time and you need to outsource, now you need to find time to put this together or to train this person, right? And I think that's a beneficial thing to hire you for 100%, because like you said, a lot of people don't have these systems in place, or they started their business or have grown their team, but they're still operating as like solopreneurs where they haven't necessarily passed things off. They haven't necessarily put together their handbook that really allows them to run it as a business instead of like as a job,
Definitely gone into businesses where they don't have those things, right? And I go and create them. But it makes my job a lot easier knowing that there are already things in place and they already have, whether that be videos or any sort of guidelines on their brand. That is already one step ahead, because then I'm getting a sense of who you are and it's making my life a lot easier too.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say is maybe like a misconception that people have about the type of business and like services that you offer, and how do you address it differently?
I think a big thing about being a virtual assistant in this industry right now is, you know, you only do administrative tasks. You only do really simple tasks like inbox management, like quick, small little bookkeeping tasks. And I have really just not agreed with that. I think as an assistant, you can do so many different things if you have the skill set. You just have to know what your strengths are. You define what you love doing as a virtual assistant. I also like to call myself an online business manager as well, and expand what my skill set is as well. So I think with the misconception is really, they can only do these small administrative tasks, which means I'm going to pay them not that much money because they're not doing a lot of things, versus you could hire someone who has a variety of different skill sets, such as myself, content creations, strategy, marketing, like system optimization. And from there, that this person isn't just taking care of, your basic administrative tasks. They're taking care of all these things inside of your business, right? So I think when we define a virtual assistant, we think, they're just somebody who does those quick little tasks that you really don't want to do. And that is true. There are things that, you're doing in your business that you can just clearly hand off to someone. It's just an easy admin tasks. I do those things. But I think there's also, again, that misconception, because people hire only those individuals to do those administrative needs versus somebody who has those different skill sets and is marketing themselves as helping you with those different things that they can offer.
Absolutely. And I think you're spot on with the misconception around like a virtual assistant. It's like they're really here to like clean up my inbox and book appointments. And it's like they really could do a lot more if they have the right skill set. So it's about hiring someone based on what your needs are of like delegating and automating and like the systems that you're talking about.
I think it's also about knowing who you're hiring. So if you know that they're presenting a bunch of skill sets and you look at their resume, then have that conversation with them on what they want to do in your business too, right? Like as a business owner, we're like, well, I need help with this and this. But I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we forget there's so many different elements to our business that we don't know we need help with. So I always say to my clients and new people that I'm onboarding, what is it that you're struggling with right now? And what is it that you want to do in the next year, 5 years? I always ask those big picture questions, because while you may just need help with administrative tasks right now, what if you want to fully offboard all these other tasks, but you're just not thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
So it's really also, I come from a place where I'm just a super proactive person and I love being able to streamline and help make things more efficient. So that's my energy, but it's also about asking the business owner as well, what else are they struggling with?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's fantastic. It's like a two-way communication, right? Yeah. So moving on from your business, like the front end of it is what I'll call it, I want to talk a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur, because a lot of the people who are going to be watching these episodes probably fall into like either early stages, have been in it for a while. It's just good to hear that you're not alone in this world, because a lot of the times that's probably the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur. It's like you're doing it alone and you're trying to make sure that you're doing it right, but like not necessarily always tapped into the right circles to be able to ask those questions. So let's dive in a little bit about that. What would you say, looking back, was maybe one of the biggest challenges you faced in the early days of starting your business? And how did you actually work through it?
I think a big thing for me was, not getting those instant results. I think, again, this is part of really being young. A lot of people are really just ambitious and want to help people. And, sometimes you have to be okay with the slow productivity and building things at a slower pace. It's okay to not, there's so many marketing coaching programs out there that are like, you can get from 0 to 10K months. And I was in one of those programs at the very start. And I felt like I need to be in this place that was like, I'm a boss babe who just knows everything. I think, again, the biggest mistake was feeling like I had to have like certain amount of results so quickly. And I think from learning that and being really hard on myself, I learned that it's okay to have milestones in your business. So knowing, okay, I made it from this quarter to this quarter. And what I've changed is I've gained a new client, I've added new offers in my business. Really counting those small wins is a big thing as well. I
Yeah.
think as well with the results, not only just results within the work I did with my clients, but also just results of how many clients I had in my business, how much money I was making. That was, again, something I took very personally. And Anna, you know this, I like us coaching together, I was always so much about the money. And it's something that I've learned that I need to get away from. So I think, from that experience of feeling like I need to be a certain way, I need to act like a certain business owner, I had to take a step back and really evaluate what I valued in myself and in my business.
Yeah, you touched on a couple of things here that I want to bring up. One is the instant gratification.
Yeah.
We're sort of programmed as society that like things need to happen now, and if they didn't happen now, you failed. And it's like, well, no. The reality is actually the compounding effect that every little thing that you do is adding up. I always say it's like putting a penny in a piggy bank. Like eventually, every time you put in a penny, that's adding up. You might not be seeing it because it's inside of your piggy bank, but everything is adding up, and that's going to create the instant gratification. All of a sudden, one of your reels blows up and you're like, whoa. And looking at it from the outside, you're like, wow, that happened so quickly. And it's like, no, actually, I've been putting money into my piggy bank for a year now, and finally it took off, right? And then the other thing that you talked about is like the money goals, and it's like stepping away from that. I always say like the money is going to support the lifestyle that you want. It's this whole premise on, like you dress for the job that you want. It's like you're already like feeling into the energy of having that job, which makes you a better candidate because then people start seeing you differently. And the energy around you and what you're attracting is different because you're dressing for the job that you want, not the one that you have. So it's like the same kind of thing. It's like you're elevating your lifestyle, and the money like has to come in to support it because you're now showing up differently. Your energy is different.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. My energy has really shifted as well. Just stepping into more of that leader versus being an employee in my own business, right?
Oh, that's huge.
When I first started, I had this mentality that I needed to be in a certain place. I needed to act almost the same sort of way as I was in the corporate world, but I didn't realize that I could make so many of my own rules up because it is my business, right? And I think I've allowed myself to release a lot of those ideas of feeling like I need to show up at a certain point in a certain time based on what I learned in the corporate world, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important. It's like breaking those 9 to 5 habits is what I call it, because it's like, we're like taught a certain thing, but it's like, is it actually applicable? Like you said at the beginning of this, you started your business because you're like, I want to make my own rules. I want to do things differently. I don't want to stick to these ways of doing things. And then it's like, once you start your business, you fall into the 9 to 5 habits because that's what you've known.
Yep.
Yeah. What would you say was, I don't know, maybe was there ever a moment where you thought about maybe giving up or things like that in your business? And what was it that kept you going?
There definitely was a moment, early, like I was in mid first year of my business. I'm in 2 years now, so it was about halfway from where I am now, where I felt like I just wasn't at a place financially and successfully, as what they call it, as a business owner, to feel like I could keep committing. I also felt like I was being burnt out. And some of the clients I had were just not my ideal clients. I think what really shifted for me was really reflecting on what I wanted in my business, what I truly valued in myself, but also what I was spending my time on in my business and what I needed to remove. And I think when I did that, I started to see a shift even within myself and things that needed to be removed. Like early on, there was a few people in my business, a few clients in my business that I knew I wanted to remove. It was just about making that action to do it. I removed 2 clients from my business that I knew weren't aligned with me. I actually finally made the decision for one of those clients now, but it was an ongoing, kind of contemplation on, can I release these people knowing that I'm going to allow myself more time and energy to focus on clients that I'm really aligned with. And I think in doing that, I also shifted my self-esteem, my confidence, and just, again, showing up as a business owner. I think as well, I'd like to touch on the fact that after really reflecting, when those moments came up of, doubt and fear, I also reflected, is my business something that I need to have as my sole value of myself? So I used to always, with myself, associate work with, validation, my confidence. Achievement was a big part of my life. I have reflected for the past 6 months on how my business is my own and I truly love what I do, but I need to find other extensions of myself. It's almost like, I like to use the comparison of Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is a creative and she loves to make music and is constantly passionate about doing that. But on the side, she also bakes, right? She does other things because she knows, as a creative, that she needs something else to keep her sane, right? Because at the end of the day, your business is your business and you have to take care of it, but it doesn't have to be your entire world.
Mhm.
And that's something that I had to face and learn that with myself.
Yeah, and I think you're touching on something that a lot of people probably resonate with, because when you go into conversations, when you're like in a room, especially with people that you may not know, what's the first question that they ask you? What do you do? And that implies, like, what do you do for work? So you're totally right. Like, we give so much value to the work that we do in that essence. And when you're an entrepreneur, and maybe like even at the beginning of it, you're like a little awkward about saying what you do, because you're like, I'm still trying to see how successful this is going to be. And here you are asking me to validate this as like the one and only thing that is like the value of me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I hear a lot of people say that to me, like, what do you do? And then I'm more confident now because it's something I'm passionate about, but it's also because I don't add weight to it the same way that I did a year ago, right? Feeling like I need to put all my energy into it versus detaching a little bit, knowing that this is part of my life, but I also have other parts of myself that are important and I can have value to, that are just something that I favor over business all the time, right? So,
For sure. Okay, well, this conversation is flowing really well into one of the coaching questions that you sent. I had asked you to let me know what was something that we could brainstorm or talk about on this call. And one of the things that you shared with me was working on building a lifestyle vision, which I think it's flowing really well into that. So I kind of want to dive into it. Can you just give me a little bit more background information as to like what exactly you're wanting us to have the conversation here about? So when you say working on building a lifestyle vision.
I think because I am truly trying to find things outside of my business that complement it and complement me, that I want to know what I need to do with my energy outside of my business, and the things that I do and the things that I invest in, the people I invest in, so that they can complement with each other, because I truly believe that your environment is everything. What you envision and what you seek, whether manifest, will come true. You just need to know what those things are. And I think I'm very good at taking the time to really envision what that thing will be if I want to have it in my hands. But I think when it comes to lifestyle, I think there is this big norm to really feel like you need to have like the house, the family, all the trips. But I think for me, I'm uncertain and need clarity on what a lifestyle really means and what we define that as. Like, is it what we do when we wake up in the morning? Is it how we speak to people? I think when you specifically talk about lifestyle, I want to learn a little bit more on how I can tap into what that looks like for myself and what I need to do to start envisioning that process of, this is what I want in my life.
Yeah. Okay. Love that. Okay. So this is the first thing that I'm going to say. You are looking for a checklist, and a lifestyle is not a checklist. Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, that's what I learned, that you need to have the dream job, the nice trips, the house, everything, right? Yeah.
So it's not a checklist because it's constantly evolving. Like every year, we'll go cliche here, every year you put together a vision board, right? That vision board is going to have some elements that are probably consistent throughout the years, but a lot of it's going to change because you're growing, you're learning new things, you're having new experiences. And as you do, you start learning what you do like, what you don't like. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that I used to love soccer. I can't even sit there and like play it or watch it or whatever. Like, things like that are going to happen. So you can't look at it as a checklist. You have to look at it more of like this emotional feeling connection. So it's like when I grab a book and I go and sit in a bookstore and read it, like, do I feel like excited to do that? Like to sit there and read the book? Then, okay, that's aligned and that's a lifestyle thing that you want to include, right? When I go in my kitchen and I find a new recipe on Instagram and I'm like, oh, I have all the ingredients, am I excited to go make it? Yes. Okay. So then that is something that adds to your lifestyle, right? So it's not so much about like, knowing the end, although that is important, but it's not so much about knowing the end. It's about like tapping into that feeling as you're going through life. So as I say that, I will also say that the end goal is important and you should visualize that. So like end goal, if you picture yourself 10 years from now, like you're making this up, right? Like you might be like, I invest in aerospace, like, but yet you know nothing about it right now. Like that's okay. Yeah. We don't need to know anything about it. It is just like, if I get to put my hand in a hat full of great ideas and start pulling them out, it doesn't matter like what my experience is or anything like that. It's just a whole bunch of great ideas, right? So don't be so boxed in on like, this is the checklist, this is what should be on it, because you're already experiencing that, like a lot of those like checklists, this is the box I should be trying to fit into, are lining up with you. So you have to do it more based on emotion. So what I suggest doing is spending some time picturing that 10 years from you. And a lot of the time, if you're having a hard time with that, which I think is what's coming up for you, what I tell clients is grab a doll. I don't have one here, so let's pretend my water bottle is one. Grab some sort of stuffed animal or something and make up a life for it. So this is stuffed animal Katie, and she likes to wear suits, and she actually doesn't really work. So I don't know why she wears suits, but she just loves suits. Like, like you make up a story for that doll, item, teddy bear, whatever it is. And then once you write that all down and have fun with it, see what from it, you're like, why did I think of that? Like, is that something that actually connects with me? Because sometimes it's really hard to almost like look at yourself in the mirror and talk about yourself than it is to like put that on someone else or something else. Right. It's a lot easier for you to like talk about your best friend and say all the amazing things about them versus like talking about yourself and saying all the amazing things about yourself. So sometimes that's a great exercise where it's like, let's put this lifestyle outside of me and make it about someone else. And then from that, I'm going to pick and choose like what resonates with me. And then, so that's like your vision of the future. And then you go, okay, now as I walk through life, I have these goals, I have this vision of what I want, blah, blah, blah. But as I walk through life, I'm focusing more on like that feeling. Am I excited to do this? And you're like, no, I'm not. Then why is that on my life vision? Okay, I got to take that off and figure that out later.
Yeah.
Right? Because what might be good for you right now, like I used to think when I was in college, I studied journalism, and I was like, I'm going to be an anchor on like CP24, you know, like those newsrooms, whatever. And then I actually got a taste for it, and I was like, this is horrible because I want to have a life with like my kids, and this sort of business doesn't actually fit into that because you're waking up at 3 a.m. Like if something major happens, you're being pulled out of stuff that your life revolves around. And I knew that I wanted to have a family in my future, right? But it's like I would have never known that until I had the experience.
Right.
So I wouldn't have been able to like check that off or cross it off of that lifestyle vision
Yep.
until I had the experience.
Right. Okay. Right.
What's coming up for you? We can go deeper into this.
No, that definitely makes sense. I think I am a very emotional person. So when something I tap into that I'm really enjoying, it's funny, I don't really reflect on that and kind of tell myself, oh, this is part of your lifestyle. But I think you bringing this up now, it kind of almost puts like a little ring in my ear of like, okay, when something that I'm doing and I'm really in the flow and I'm really enjoying it, I need to note that. Like it almost for me, like part of me is like, because I like to write everything down, if that energy is coming up, I should write down, you know, lifestyle, painting. Like I was painting the other day and it just obviously that calms me and grounds me, but I haven't done painting in years since high school. And that feeling, the intuition, the energy that I had with that felt so good. And I think sometimes when it comes to things, when I'm trying them or I've done it before and I enjoyed it before, and then I come back and I'm not as excited about it, I think partly my brain is like, no, you should be excited for it. You enjoyed it before. But I do like the spin on it, the fact that like we don't have to enjoy something that we used to enjoy. It's okay to change. It's okay to adapt, right? I was even doing like a workout the other day, and it was like all strength based, and I'm into strength workouts, but I found the workouts super boring. I found it super boring, right? And then I tried a different video and I felt more energized of something that was completely different. So I do find that is really interesting. And I think that comes up more for entrepreneurs too, because we're constantly adapting and changing when we have all these ideas.
100%, like our businesses and our lives, like they both happen. And one thing also, it's like if you don't realize in the moment that you were enjoying it, think about your, like at the end of the day, reflect on like what you did. And if you're like, wow, I actually spent so much time painting and I didn't even realize time went by. Like that's how you know you're very like tuned into what you're doing and really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And when I do puzzles, I'm addicted. Like I try not to do puzzles that often because I'm addicted. I will spend all day doing a puzzle until I get it done because like I don't realize time passing by, and I find that like very exciting. And again, it's like those lifestyle things. So also think like time of like, what did I just spend my time doing? And did I feel like time passed on very slowly, or was I actually like, wow, that went by really quick?
That's actually, I was watching a video on that. It's actually called The Gap in meditation. So in meditation, when you don't know time has passed, that's the gap. So it's the same thing in the creative process too. When you're doing something and you don't know how much time has passed, it's the gap.
Yeah. So what are those gaps? That's going to give you insight into the lifestyle, right? So do some visualization of like what right now, you being you, the things that you've learned, the things that you've experienced, the life that you currently have, what do you see yourself in 10 years? Like, what does that look like? If it's hard for you to do that, think about like an object, like a doll or a teddy bear. And then as you go throughout your days, think about like what is exciting you, what is giving you joy, what is emotionally activating you in a positive way. And then that's how you start pulling things for your lifestyle.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, Katie, thank you so much for coming on here and chatting with us and sharing about your business and what it's like to be an entrepreneur. It's, I love these conversations. So thank you so much for taking the time and sharing that with us.
Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you today.
Yeah.